Hey guys, so it's Stasia, and we're finally back at it at Pureline Tutoring Services with our 10-minute topics. So this is our 10-minute topic YouTube series. And yeah, so let's get right into that apology. So first and foremost, seriously, let me just apologize for literally dipping, like disappearing without a trace for so long. But I was covered with work that needed to be done for my research project because I'm actually enrolled right now doing my postgraduate studies at UWI St. Augustine. So I didn't have the time. I really wanted to continue the work, but the quality of the work, the consistency with videos and all of these things and content creation was just it wasn't where I wanted it to be. So I ended up stopping literally kind of cold turkey, and I'm absolutely sorry for that. I'm still not done with my studies, but I'm in a much better space now where things could be consistent. So I'm definitely back, especially with this study content here on YouTube. I'm not sure about joining TikTok as yet, but that's something we're looking into for the future. And I'm definitely back with privately tutoring. So if you're interested in getting some information about registering for the private tutoring, I'll leave that link in the bio below, in the description box below, sorry. Now, let me give you a little recap, just in case you forget what 10-minute topic with Pureline tutoring service is, or what these sessions will be about. So it's literally random topics based on information from the syllabus for Form 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 in one of the two topics or both of the subjects, sorry, that we offer, which is biology and integrated science. Now, these will be random, as in I'll just decide, okay, what we're going to do this week. Or if you guys feel like there's a particular topic or something that you're just not getting or you want to see done, you could leave a comment. And based on the order of the requests, we'll get all of the videos done. Now, this content could either be past paper questions or in the sense of lower school, some made up test paper questions based on the work that is in the syllabus. Um, or it could actually be like mini tutoring series sessions where we'll pick a topic or you will request something and we will try to get as much information within the 10-minute mark for the series. Now, sometimes the videos may go a little over 10 minutes, but I'm really trying to keep it within the 10-minute mark. So let's get started. And since this is the first video back out, I decided that I wanted to do my favorite topic, which is from the biology CSEC syllabus, section C. And listen, section C, from my experience with students, is literally you love it or you hate it. And it's my favorite because this is actually what I'm studying for my postgraduate degree. But with plants, I love plants. Yeah, I know I'm a little weird with that because not much people will study plants, but if people don't study plants, who will, right? So let's get into it. So you have continuity and variation. So if you click here, I took a really long time to make this, but I love it. So I'll be using this for all of the videos that we have coming up when it comes to giving information and not past paper questions. So the first thing we want to look at is the terms. And listen to me, this is the part that will make or break your experience when it comes to this section. These terms might seem very, not important, but they play the biggest part in understanding this part of the syllabus. So we want to look at what is a dominant trait, recessive trait, what is genotype, phenotype, what's meant by that, as well as homozygous and heterozygous. And for this is actually going to sort of cover the very first part or the first objective under section C. And this here is the syllabus that I got it from, which is the biology syllabus, which is currently in use. This is the most updated one. And listen to me, I hope you all have a copy of your syllabus. Your syllabus for any subject that you are studying at any level from 1 to 6. This is a lifesaver. This should be your best friend. Whenever you are studying, your syllabus is supposed to be right there. You're taking notes, your syllabus should be right there. You're trying to do some questions to see how best you understand the topic, use your syllabus and the objectives. So as we go along, with me posting content and all of that, I'll dive into how to use your syllabus to study and why your syllabus is so important when it comes to studying, as well as for those lab subjects that you have to do, that biochem, phys, and well, I understand that other subjects, we have a lot of labs as well with it. So if you don't have a copy of your syllabus, I will leave the link in the description box below, and you can go ahead and download that from the CSEC page. So let's get into it. So we have these terms here: allele, genes, dominant, recessive, homozygous, heterozygous, genotype, phenotype, and the last one that I threw in there, which is our focus of this session. We're just using Mendelian inheritance laws. So just a quick run through of what these terms mean. An allele is literally variations of a particular gene. So if we have gene A, the alleles could be A1, A2, A3, A4, A500, whatever. All of the variants or variations that that particular gene will come in. What is the gene? The gene is part or segments of DNA that carries all of your hereditary information that is passed on from your parent. So it is passed from parent to offspring. So that term offspring, this is what we want to use moving forward through this syllabus, or this part of the syllabus when we're talking about genetics. Because you wouldn't just be speaking about genetics with humans, you'll be talking about genetics with plants, with mice. What is something else they like to use? With bacteria as well. And you wouldn't say the plant has children and passed on the green color of the leaves to the children or the yellow color to the children, right? You would say the offspring. So we want to get familiar with that term. So the genes, again, are part of the DNA or segments of DNA that carries all of our hereditary information that we inherited from our parents. Now, these two here, I like to think of it as peers: dominant and recessive, homozygous and heterozygous, genotype and phenotype. Oops, my bad. Right. So what is dominant? It's the same thing that you would use in any other case where you use that term dominant. It's something that takes over a situation. So in this case, we are talking about our alleles. So the dominant version of the allele is literally the one that takes over the show. This is the one that is going to be seen. Now, the one that is not going to be seen is the recessive trait or the recessive allele. So the recessive allele is going to be masked by the dominant trait or the dominant allele. So even though it is there, you are not going to see it express itself because that dominant allele is the one that is showing up. So think about it. Let's say you are a very quiet person, very soft-spoken, and then you have somebody sitting next to you who has a boom box in their throat. So you and this person are speaking at the same time. Anybody want to hear you? No, nobody is going to hear you, right? They're only going to hear that person. So in this case, that person is the dominant person. Their voice is dominant. They are commanding things. Everybody is going to hear them. But you know, nobody is hearing you, even though you're speaking. So you are the recessive allele in this case. You are there, the both of you are there, both the dominant and recessive. You are both there in the same room, but nobody is hearing you who is recessive. They're only hearing the dominant person. So it's the same thing with the alleles. If you have a dominant allele and a recessive allele together, nobody is going to see, or the expression of the recessive trait is not going to be seen. Only the dominant trait is going to be seen. So how would somebody hear you speaking? That dominant person has to not be in the room. So it's the same thing again with the genes. For the recessive gene to be expressed, that dominant trait has to be absent. Homozygous and heterozygous. Homo means same. Hetero means different or more than one. So what is a homozygous? What is that term homozygous? Homozygous refers to having two of the same genes. So you have two recessive genes, alleles. You have two recessive dominant alleles. Homozygous, right? If you have one dominant and one recessive, they are not the same, they are different. So then it is heterozygous. So it's two different forms of a gene. You have two different alleles. Then genotype and phenotype. When you think about the term genotype, think about genes. We just said that the genes here are parts of the DNA that carries the hereditary information. Remember how small our cells are. And it's so amazing that in those tiny cells, we have all of these different organelles, and we have this very, very important nucleus, which has this DNA, right? So we cannot see the DNA, we cannot see our genes. So that's how I sort of remembered it when I was studying. So your genotype, you cannot see it. It is the internal hereditary information that contains the genetic code. So this is the blueprint basically in the background, right? This will be like, if you're thinking about IT and coding, this will be the code that you're writing in the background. But then the phenotype is actually let's say we're trying to build a website. So the IT tech will be doing all the typing and, putting those codes in the background. But what we are going to see from the other end is that finished website. We are going to see the product of those codes. So that's the same thing here, what the phenotype is. It is the product or the expression of the codes that make up our genotype. And lastly, Mendelian inheritance. Listen to me. I wish everything was like this. Mendelian inheritance is the simplest one. So it's simply that rule with Mendelian's inheritance is that it only comes in yes or no. Yes or no meaning, is it dominant? Yes. Or is it recessive? That's all. We have no combinations. We have no one more than the next or anything like that. It's literally dominant or recessive, either or. So that is what we'll use, at least in this part here. When you go further with your biology studies, you'll learn about the other types. So let's use an example to show you how we could tie up all of those definitions. So let's look at this. What type of cell is this? Plant or animal cell? Let me know any comments below. And at this point, you are supposed to notice this is Form 1 work here, right? So we want to forget about all of the other organelles in this cell, and we want to focus on this point here, which is our nucleus. So in the nucleus, we know we have our DNA, and our DNA is stored as chromosomes. So what are chromosomes? Chromosomes are literally DNA strands that are wrapped around proteins that are called histones. Histones. So I'm not the best artist out here, but let's say these are our histone proteins. We'll have our DNA. This is the worst drawing ever, but you should get the concept behind it, right? So the DNA is literally wrapped around these proteins that are called histones. So this is what our chromosomes are. And human beings, we have 23 pairs of chromosomes, and we mark that as 23N, where N is equal to 2. 2 being one from our maternal source, one from our paternal source. So altogether, if we're counting it as single or individual chromosomes, in humans, we have 46 chromosomes. 46 chromosomes, which is 23 pairs. Right. That's another topic by itself. So in the DNA, this DNA is made up of segments of genes. So in our DNA, this is where we find all of the genes, everything that makes us us, right? At least our genetic coding, our DNA, what our DNA codes for us. But going through this part of the syllabus, you'll see that not only your genes have a part to play in you becoming you, your environment also has a part to play. So let's use the simplest example. I completely forgot that this doesn't erase by itself. So just let me remove this. Right. So we have the best example we can use, which because it has a lot of variation. We have hair color. So we have the mother with brown hair and we have the father with blonde hair. So we have alleles. Remember, our alleles are variations of a particular gene. So the gene that we're speaking about here is the gene for hair color, right? Dominant and recessive. Remember, we said the dominant is the one that expresses itself, the loud one, whereas the recessive one is the quiet one. Once the dominant one is there, we're not going to see it. So what combinations do we need? Because we have two, right? Remember I said we have 23 pairs. Pairs meaning two. So we have one that we inherit from our mother. So one allele for hair color from our mother, one allele for the hair color from our father. So these two is what we have here. What how do we know, or what combinations could we get from this? What could we possibly have when it comes to our hair color? Well, we could have big B, big B. So why we have these capital letters? I forgot to mention that. When we're talking about genetics and when we're talking about genes, we use letters from the alphabet to represent the genes. We use capital letters to represent the dominant traits, and we use common letters to represent the recessive traits. Now, most of the time, we could choose any letter that we want to represent the gene. But in some cases, you'll have to use specific letters. And as you go through again in that past section of the syllabus, those examples or those times when you have to use specific things, you will see it. So let's get back to this. So we could have big B, or big B, small b, small b. So we could have two alleles that are the same. Homozygous. Remember that term? And then we could have a case where we have one of each. We can have a dominant and we could have a recessive. Is that homozygous? Remember that term, heterozygous. Now, next to it, I have a picture of the color here. Why is it that we get brown here twice? Well, let me explain that to you. So remember, again, we said dominant, that's the loud one. Dominant trait is always going to mask the recessive trait. The recessive trait is there. It is there. It is part of our genotype. But when it comes to what we see, which is our phenotype, we are not going to see it. We are only going to see whatever that dominant trait expresses. So if we have two big Bs or two dominant alleles, what we refer to that is as homozygous dominant. What is the dominant color, or what is expressed by that dominant allele or version of the gene? Brown hair. So if the offspring has two dominant alleles, then they are going to get brown hair. We have here two recessive alleles. So if we call this one homozygous dominant, what do you think we'll call this one? We'll call that homozygous recessive. And that will give us the blonde hair. Why do we get blonde hair? There's no loud person in the room. There's no loud or dominant trait here, only the recessive. So if we only have two recessive genes, then versions of that gene, then that's all that could be expressed. So that'll be the only time when that blonde will get to shine, basically. And if we have a mixture, which is the heterozygous version, which is one dominant and one recessive, remember I said that example, if you are a loud person in the room, both of you are speaking at the same time, nobody is going to hear you, only the loud person. So this is what is happening here. The dominant version of this allele, this is what is going to show itself. Therefore, the person, which is the offspring, is going to have brown hair. So the genotype, remember we said that's the code in the background. That is what this big B, big B, big B, small b, small b, small b is, right? This is our genotype, the coding in the background. Now, what this coding expresses is our phenotype. And that phenotype is what we can actually see, what is going to be expressed, which is the brown hair or the blonde hair. So that brings us to the end of this very first video. I hope the information was clear enough. I hope you understand it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. And stay safe, stay good, and continue studying and working hard. And I'll see you next week. Bye.